I am going to start off this podcast by apologizing because it has been a month since I have done a podcast, and my apologies to all the farmers out there. I know you haven't been in your cabs because it has been raining a lot, and today is May 13th. I thought I had this pre-recorded, and I don't, so I'm going to record it, and get it out to you on soybean planting. I know some of you have got soybeans in the ground. I have seen some of these soybeans up. I've seen them with a trifoliate out, and I want to talk about the prosperity of planting soybeans early. And soybeans are what I call, they're kind of I'm not going to call them a weed because a weed is a plant out of place, but soybeans can recoup, and we have found these little resilient beans can really withstand some weather conditions. And especially with the genetics and all the fungicides that we have on them today. But why do we plant soybeans early? Why is it important? We have learned a lot through the 80s, 90s, and up till today. I'll tell you a story. My brother-in-law was always shunned for planting on April 30th. He was like looked at by the neighbors of like, what the are you doing? Why are you putting beans in the ground? And yeah, there weren't seed treatments then. However, there was a reason why he was doing it. And I want to share a few of those. I know you guys know a few of these, and we're doing a lot more of it now. Guys aren't shunning when you do it, but it is a benefit, especially for us in the northern states, to put beans in the ground early. It's a risk reward, I call it. So with that, let's dig into the prosperity of planting soybeans early. With that, let's dig in. Thank you for listening. All right. Some of you guys I know have soybeans in the ground, and I know that you're seeing them come up. It's May 13th, it's the day after Mother's Day, and we have had on the calendar, that April 13th, 14th was a good run that weekend. Some guys went, some guys didn't. Some guys put beans in, some guys were doing corn, some were doing both. I know there's a lot of guys that have more beans in than corn, and vice versa. With soybean planting, for us, specifically in Minnesota, it is important to get those beans up due to the fact that we rely on sunlight, and we need that sunlight hitting those leaves as early as we can because our days get short pretty dang fast. That is really the number one reason. The other reason that I remind guys is that, and you guys know this, is that you will put more nodes on that crop factory. On every single millions of soybean seeds that you plant, you're going to put more nodes on that stem when you can get that planted early. And I know this because there were studies out in Illinois in the mid-90s where you do a planting in mid-May versus mid-April. There were double the nodes, 5 nodes versus 10 nodes. And wherever you have a node, you put a flower. And wherever you have a flower, you have a pod. So in the 80s, I think guys just sprayed Cobra. That's what they did. They're just like, let's just blow out 10 to 12 ounces of Cobra and whip the crap out of it, and they'll shorten the internodes, which that's why I'm saying these beans are resilient. They bounce back. We've gotten hail. We've gotten, where you took out the main stem and it Y-branched like a wishbone. It was phenomenal yielding beans. It's like you just want to go out there and pinch every single soybean that comes out of the ground to see if you can get that kind of that wishbone effect and you get more nodes on that plant. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here, but I noticed that through the years that these beans, soybeans specifically, are very, very resilient. Going back to the reason we plant early. We have, like I stated, we've got these beans out now with a trifoliate on them. And a lot of guys are tracking rainfall. We track rainfall. Why are you guys not tracking sunny days? That is what I want you to do. Today, May 13th, we have smoke. We have smoke again from Canada. I'm not blaming the Canadians. I love Canadians, but what the heck? Are you guys burning up there or what? Why are we getting smoke again? I don't know. Maybe there's fires. I haven't caught up with the news, but this hazy days, yeah, we're maybe getting some sulfur out of the deal, but sunny days, beans need sunlight. And we know that the summer solstice, that June 20th, 21st, is the longest day of the year. And after that, the days get shorter. That thus triggers these soybeans to flower. However, they don't just like automatically flower on that day. Have you guys ever like wrote down when your beans are flowering? Like track that? I track it. Last year, for some odd reason, these soybeans didn't put a single flower on until 2 weeks after. It's about 2 weeks. And in some years, they're flowering earlier. So obviously it has a lot to do with variety. If there's a 1-2, a 1-8, a 2, a 2-2, a 2-4, whatever you guys are planting, that is where I want you to experiment. Take your 1-2 bean, plant it early. Take your 1-2 bean, plant it later. Watch when it triggers the flowering. That to me is how we learn, because the earlier we can get these nodes, more nodes on the plant, the earlier we can get them to flower, the longer time frame they have for capturing full sunny days, longer sunlight days. That is what soybeans love. All crops love sunshine. I don't care, even with corn. Track the sunny days. But beans are very, very dependent on sunlight. Their leaves are like little solar factories. And they're all like little solar factories. So what I want you to also do is take your phone, go out to a soybean field on June 20th, 21st, and tap video, drop your phone down, have the camera up, and take a video of what you've got for canopy closure. And just take note of that, have it on your phone. What I like to do with pictures that I take during the season is make an album for 2023. All my pictures of field pictures go in there. And I can track it every year. I can go back to 2023 crop, 2022 crop, 1989 crop. Well, maybe not 1989. We didn't have a cell phone then, but you get my gist. So that is what I want you to do, because you can find a lot of things fast if you have an album, and you can understand every season and how it's different. The other thing I noticed with Mother Nature, are the trees budding out earlier? Are the trees budding out later? That has an effect on what's going on with our crops. I do track that also. There's just something about that I'm like, okay, the beans are I think we get beans in the ground because these trees are budding out early, and Mother Nature's saying it's going to be early or it's going to be late. And it's just weird, but just something to keep in mind. But the prosperity of planting beans earlier, obviously it's plants per acre. You know, you get your plants, you get your nodes, you get your flowers, you get your pods. How many seeds you get in that pod is what determines our yield. So if you can get a little bit jump on it, and like I said, it's a risk reward. You can plant beans and get them frozen off. You can plant beans and have 2 trifoliates on it by middle of May, and see what happens. I mean, track your nodes, count your nodes, see how many nodes you've got versus the stuff you planted later. Maybe the same variety would be a good tracking way of doing a science experiment on your farm, and just do some of that. So the shift has been, in the 80s, 90s. Like I said, my brother-in-law planted April 30th, and everybody's like looking at him like, you're crazy. But the average plant date in the U.S. was June 1st in the 80s and 90s. Isn't that crazy? And if we don't have beans in the ground by June 1st now, it's like, that's going to be a shit crop, And so that's why this whole thing has shifted. And I think it's good. I mean, as we entered the 2000, that date shifted by more than a week. And then the average planting was kind of, in those 15 years, was about May 24th. And so right now, I guess the most important thing to take away is that planting date is so important in managing higher yields, because we're pushing for soybeans for higher yields to have 2 main goals. One is to try to keep as many pods on that plant as possible. And that comes with nodes. That's why planting earlier, you get more nodes. And number 2 is to maximize that amount of sunlight that crop captures. Those are the 2 main things of why we plant our soybeans early. And if you have the capability to do it, I suggest try to do it. If you've got one planter, I get it. But if you can try to do something like that and do an experiment, because you know your farm better than anybody else that can tell you what to do, just do it. And I know you guys are all curious. You're all great farmers, but just watch your nodes, track your sunny days, track your closure of canopy, and protect your soybeans during their reproductive phase. If you are just planting, fertilizing, putting chemical, spraying chemical, and harvesting and forgetting about what happens in June and July and August, rethink what you're doing, because the plant's goal is to produce seed. And if you are not protecting it and giving it what it needs during that time, you're jeopardizing your yield. Those are some things. I'm just going to keep it on the topic of planting early. It's all about the nodes. It's all about the sun capture. So at that, I am the pharmacist assisting crops on your farm. Hopefully you took something away. I apologize again. I'll try to get these out weekly or bi-weekly so that you guys can keep up with the season. And thank you for following. Follow me on social media. I'm the Farmerette. It's got Smurfette, Bachelorette. I'm the Farmerette. I'm located in southern Minnesota. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on YouTube. And all the platforms. So anyway, thank you. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover, please reach out, send me an email, message me. And thank you for listening to The Pharmacist.